in the live chat.
Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk About whatever we're talking about. We've been talking about some big topics in the last few weeks. We've been talking about faith in challenging times with the campus rabbi, Alex Goldberg. We've been talking about the loss of a parent and how how someone can survive that. With my good friend Chris, we had a chat with a mental health nurse, retired mental health nurse, a few weeks ago about fear and anxiety and what we can practically do when we feel overwhelmed by emotions. Last week we had David joining us, an international student from Hong Kong, and he shared a little bit how his life now looks like. And this evening we have Charlie joining us, sharing again how his life in lockdown looks like. I'm Lily. I work for Friends International. We put on loads of events for international students, trying to help them to connect with others, not just other internationals, but local people as well. And we're really excited to have a local person and an international at the same time with us this evening. Hey! We also have Phil back from furlough. Happy times. Yay. Phil is my colleague. And you probably have come across them if you've been around Friends International for a while. So he is going to do the interview this evening as well. And we're really looking forward to having some time finding out what Charlie has been up to. Phil, over to you for now.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Thanks, Lily. So just to introduce Charlie and I go a ways back, trying to work out how long it was. So we were in the same year at University of Surrey.
Yeah.
That was 15 years ago.
Yeah, we started in 2005. So yeah, coming up to 15 years this September. My goodness.
There you go. Feeling young. So it's great to have you on board, and just a warning to some people, you might find that you get stuck in Guildford like we did.
It's true.
I love it. I love Guildford, so it's not a problem. But just this lockdown, how have you been getting on? What have you been up to?
I'm still working. So I'm still working full time. So my week looks a little bit different, I guess, because I'm a pastor of a church, family church. So I'm a church leader. So Sundays are kind of working days, which means I have Thursdays off as my day off. So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Sunday. So I've been working similar hours. So work's been there, and then other stuff. I've been watching the Marvel films in a chronological order with my housemates. Which I haven't enjoyed.
You haven't at all?
I realised that the first time I watched them, I loved it. But I think Marvel's one of those films that second time round, I'm not that bothered. So I'm using that time to nap on the sofa as my housemates are nudging me and trying to keep me awake.
Nice.
Yeah, been cooking and eating a lot. So the usual lockdown activities, really. Yeah.
So you kind of answered the next question a little bit. What have you struggled with enjoying movies? So yeah, I'm like you with Marvel, just going slightly off track here, but the I could take them or leave them. Although I did watch Ant-Man.
Controversial.
Putting
out some big things here. Sorry, guys. Thought it's a lighter topic.
I think we should put that on the banner at the bottom. Which Marvel films do you like? So, so I mean, particularly out of all of the stuff that you've been doing, the cooking and the Marvel films, is there anything particularly about this time that you've really enjoyed?
You know, I've really enjoyed a time of reflection, actually, without going too deep. I think it's really made me question what motivates me. Because, for example, I could have days when I just don't shower, and it's, you know, I have showered today. I have put these clothes on.
Glad to hear it.
You know, I think it's been a time where I've really thought about why I'm doing what I'm doing and what motivates me. Because I think so often I can live my life based upon external reasoning. So someone needs me to do something, so I'll do it. And so my day is determined by that, as opposed to being internally motivated. So I think it's been a good time to reflect on those things, and to really think about why I do what I do. So yeah, it's been a really good time of thinking about that kind of stuff. It's just felt like and I like that everyone's paused, because I think that's it. Even if I'm reflecting, if nobody else is, then I can't, because I'm moving at other people's pace. But it's felt like everyone's gone, okay, we're all forced to pause and reflect. Great. So can I give you some time, and can we give each other some time to reflect on things, rather than what about this? What about this? So everyone's going, okay, this is all a new situation. So it's been quite nice. I think I've enjoyed the sameness across the world. I don't mean like the illness and the negative side of it, but it's been nice to be able to connect with people around the world, and to be able to look at how it's affecting them. And in doing so, I've connected with families who I haven't spoken to for months. So there's been amazing connection points like that.
We've already mentioned, I already mentioned that you have an international background. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I am born a proud South Korean man, and I was born in South Korea, and I came over when I was 11 to England. My parents decided to relocate from Seoul, the busiest, vibrant capital city of South Korea, to equally as exciting a place called Doncaster, which is in the south of the Yorkshire, South Yorkshire. So yeah, kind of Midlands. Everyone down south calls it North. It's not the North, it's the Midlands. For those ignorant Southerners, I'm just letting you know, it's Midlands. It's the middle of England.
Big discussions here.
All from here. It's all relative.
Yeah. So yeah, born in South Korea, came when I was 11, and then I came to University of Surrey, and so I was actually technically an international student, even though I did GCSEs and A-levels, because I still had a Korean passport. I didn't get the British nationality citizenship until my second year or third year. So technically, I was an international student. So yeah. So that's kind of my Midlands South Korean cultural fusion background.
Yes. So have you been able to connect with your family in South Korea more in this time as well, and how are they doing?
Yeah, my sister actually sent a bunch of masks, because she it's
my mum did the same from Germany.
Isn't it funny hearing how internationals are seeing how we are approaching it in England? So I've had contact from my brother-in-law, my sisters in Korea, to my all my family saying, are you okay? I hear England's really struggling, like people are dying and all of that kind of stuff. And I know people are dying, but on a day-to-day basis, for most of us, it's, other than not being able to go out, it's kind of lockdown, but not really the pandemic side of things that we experience, unless you've got family members who are unwell. So my sister in Korea has been, as you know, I'm very proud to say, Korea's approach to this pandemic has been excellent. Just saying. So yeah, they sent loads of masks, which was really funny. So I've got a load of masks, and I think it's still weird because people in England haven't really worn masks, right? And there are some people. I mean, I saw someone who had a full-on like plastic visor and like a helmet on in Sainsbury's, and I don't know if they were a cyclist or they're a biker, or whether they use that as a protective gear. So yeah, it's been really nice connecting with them, and I think this time, in terms of the reflecting, I've been thinking a lot about kind of my heritage in terms of Korea and England and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a bit of a self-discovery time as well, which has been fun.
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
Is that why you put on some live cooking then?
It is. I think when I came over to this country, and I think a lot of international students will relate to this. I mean, I wasn't an international student. I was younger, so it was even harder. But I think there's a sense that how you've been or who you've been culturally is no longer acceptable when you come to England. And no one says it. I don't know, people may say you may experience active racism, and that does exist in parts of the country especially. But I think when I first came and I was 11 years old, there was kind of an unspoken, it's not just that I looked different, I think the culture clashed. And as a young kid, I didn't quite know how to reconcile it. So the best way to do that was to assimilate, be like others. And so I really just toned down and almost tried to cut out my Korean side, which is really sad. And it was quite a traumatic experience as a child. But over the past number of years, I think it's part of kind of my walk with God and relationship with him, and causing me to look at some of the areas where I've just pushed away. And so, yeah, I think and as I started doing that, I suddenly started thinking, actually, I'd love to cook Korean food. And it's funny how when you block something away psychologically or mentally, and then you begin to engage, suddenly I start thinking, my goodness, Korean food's amazing. Like, my language is amazing. My culture's amazing. And so there's not like a xenophobic, but a national pride. I guess it's part of who I am. And I would always say I am fully Korean whilst I'm also fully British as well. As you can tell from my speaking, actually, I'm probably more English reserved than most English people anyway.
Yeah, you're more English than I am, so
that's the irony of it. So it's quite hilarious.
So just to clarify, anyone watching, I am British, but I spent all my formative years, at least from when I was 6 to 17, out in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So your time in Doncaster made you British, while I actually spent more time outside of the UK when I grew up.
Yeah, it's true. I've probably in England longer than you have.
Yeah, potentially, actually. So,
Weird,
and learning that culture dynamic. I mean, I probably just came across weird, and people thought I was British because I had. You probably knew me when I had a dodgy accent and everything. So
you had a dodgy
accent. All right.
Because now you have such a clean British accent.
Absolutely. I'm as Guildford as they come now. Guildford as they come. So I mean, aside from reflection on your culture and cooking and all those sides of things, what's one thing that you, aside from that realization of your culture, what's one thing that you want to stay when things go back to some form of lesser lockdown?
So one of the things I've been thinking about is that the phrase that I've kind of been mulling over is a rhythm that endures. And I realized that there's, a lot of my rhythms weren't intentional. They were more just circumstantial. So there were rhythms that was built because of what was going on around me, as opposed to going, this is a healthy rhythm that I've chosen and this is what I want to implement. So one of them has been, I'm sure you guys will experience it as well, but as soon as the lockdown happened, my use of technology and phone skyrocketed, and it got to like 3 days or something, and my head was hurting so much because usually I would have meetings, emails, etc., but I wouldn't be looking at the screen all the time. I'd be driving to a meeting, seeing people face to face in a cafe, but because I was doing everything on Zoom, Google Hangouts, Skype, other brands available, and all that kind of stuff, it got to a point where I thought, my goodness, I don't know if I can take any much more of this. I realized that there was such a addictive kind of, I was hungering after like connection, I guess. So I was doing a lot of those things, but I've started to just have a day in the week where I have my phone in a separate room all day or most of the day. And it's been interesting. First couple of weeks when I did that, I just kept on like putting my hand next to my mug and be like, where's the thing that should be attached to my hand? And they have been the best days of just allowing my mind to rest. And I've had moments of just sitting still, not reading anything, not watching anything, not listening to anything, just sitting still. And my housemate sometimes walks into the living room, thinks I'm a little bit weird, and just staring into the space. But I think those moments of just stillness has been really helpful. And I'd like to carry that on, especially the technology side of it, which is just to have some time away from it all.
It's really healthy, and is something that in the lead up to this, actually, interestingly, a book I've been reading is on Lily's recommendation was The Elimination of Hurry by Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I highly recommend it to anyone who watches this, but that act of putting away technology, the getting away from the constant information, and I found that myself, the amount I was checking the news, the amount I was, everyone on Facebook seems like they're an expert on viruses suddenly, and it was just getting too much, just to constantly downloading information. And just that time to rest is so important for mental health, for processing what you have absorbed. But I'm very impressed. I haven't made it to a day away, but I have built in some rhythms, like putting your phone but the phrase Mark Comer, the author of this book, uses is put your phone to bed before you go to bed. So my phone is always in another room from my bedroom, and trying to sort of ease away from the amount of time in front of screens. But then coming into this lockdown with suddenly a screen overload.
That's the thing. I think that's the risk of this season, is that we can, like, for this season, there's no other way but to connect online. But if that becomes our second nature, then I can imagine, like, as someone who's quite introverted, there's parts of this lockdown that I am really enjoying. And I thought today, gosh, I don't know if I want to go into the office every day. I quite enjoy being able to just get on with my work and that kind of stuff. And so I think there's a risk that if we're not mindful of it, we'll just carry on almost just in isolation, even when the lockdown's over, you know?
Yeah, I think that the extrovert in me is starting to get a little bit itchy. I'm right on the fence between the two, and it's really starting to get to the point where it's actually the newness of the situation is starting to wear off a bit, and the amount of Zooms back to back, being at work, and then even with church and things like that, where your community and connection is now with the screen
and family, because everybody wants
family.
It's good.
Absolutely.
Really.
So, Lily, how are you finding it?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was up for a walk with my son, who is 20 months old now, who is craving just contact with people. So anytime we're out, he is running up to everyone, showing off his sticks or his cuddly toy or his fire engine, whatever he has, and is just walking up to people trying to talk to them because he's so excited to see someone else. And I feel a little bit the same, but yesterday actually we happened to run into some friends who were out for a walk as well, and you actually realizing, oh man, I've been craving this so much, and it's so nice, and you really need to hold yourself back not to hug each other. At last we see each other again.
Thing is, even if you don't hug them, there's something about seeing them like face to face, even 2 meters away, than screen. And it could be the most high definition, most like clear sound, and there's just something about like physically being in the same space together that I think that's what I'm really missing. Just, I don't even want to hug people, or I don't want to talk to people. I just want to be in physical proximity with people. Strange.
It is an interesting situation, isn't it? And I think it is going to be interesting to see how when lockdown is lifted, how people are going to respond, if they're all, oh man, I've been craving this for so long, and I need to get my hair cut, and I need to go shopping now. Or if people are really cautious. I think that's going to be interesting, or if we see a mix of things, really.
Yeah, it's true.
So we've been chatting a little bit beforehand about you being a church pastor and you leading a church. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about your church?
Sure. So my church is called Family Church. We are one church with many locations. We have Portsmouth, Havant, Gosport, and Guildford. So I oversee the Guildford one. That's a fun little slidey game you're doing there.
Sorry, that's my bad. This is the first time I've used this, so sorry about that. I put myself on the screen.
No expertise spared here. It's wonderful.
Carry on. We're professionals.
We're doing authentic feel. I like it. So I oversee the Guildford congregation called Family Church Guildford. We're about 120 or so adults, about 35 kids, and some young, like youth under 18. So it's I love it. It's a family of people, and that's something that I've really loved in the season, is that it's as a church leader, it's incredibly what's the word? I'm just so thankful that this hasn't led to people just falling away. And I love that if anything, there's deeper connections than we'd realise, and I think that's amazing. So it's been an interesting time, but I've really enjoyed it.
Is there a way that students could check out your church at the moment or after lockdown? Yeah,
so if they go to our website, which is family.church, apparently .church is now a domain, so you don't have to do com or net or anything. Family.church. Our IT guy got in there as soon as it was announced. So if you go there, you'll be able to watch the live broadcast, which we do on Sunday mornings at 10:30. And then there's also kind of local Guildford virtual things. Not that it matters that it's local because everything's online anyway. I could be in Hawaii right now pretending to be
you could.
How awesome would that be, though?
That would be naughty.
I'm wearing this thick fleece in Hawaii, clearly. You know?
Well done.
Yeah. So they can do that. And when we are out of lockdown, we meet at Guildford College at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. So everyone's welcome, and we've got like student stuff going on. We do a lot of food and hanging out and all the fun stuff.
Yes, brilliant. How have you been finding it leading people when you're not able to see them physically? And obviously a lot of people struggling a lot more because the normal structures that we have in place are not in place anymore for a lot of people. How have you been finding that?
I found it really anxiety inducing, anxious. Anxious at the beginning. That's what I'm trying to say. See, English is my second language. I still struggle, even though I have a degree.
Good excuse. Good excuse.
I use that excuse all the time. I guess, like you said, without the routine, I realised that it showed where I was relying on my leadership more than people's commitment, if that makes sense. And so I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to try and check up on people, how they're doing, and you know, I think church leadership is very different to a normal leadership in that it's not a business. So for us, we're not in it for a product or for a service. We're in it because we love God and we love people. And so even leading people, it's not a have you done this? So when all the tasks went away, it was almost it was almost like I felt a little bit naked in terms of, oh wow, what was the point of like our connections in the past? Because if I'm not connecting with people because there's no jobs to be done, then I've only connected with them because they're workers, you know, they're volunteers. But we say we're family church because we believe that to the core of who we are, we're a family. It's relationships, it's friendships, it's loyalty, it's love, brotherhood, sisterhood, family, and all of those relationships. So to begin with, I think I took on a lot of pressure to try and contact everyone. Is everyone okay? A little bit like a small village church mentality of, now I've got to call everyone, because if not, then no one's going to get in touch with anyone, and people are going to feel alone, and blah, blah, blah. And then I got to about third, fourth day and I was exhausted. I was waking up anxious thinking, oh, and then, I realized actually this was never my church. This was always, the church was never mine. I'm here here to serve and to lead, but ultimately we all, as Christians, we say Jesus is the head of the church, and that's not just figurative, like, yeah, he's the head, he's the patron, like a charity where they just come to like cut ribbons and stuff. I'm sure patrons do more than that. I don't actually know what they do. I feel like I'm offending everyone today. But yeah, for me, I think it was just a reminder that church isn't an organization, nor is it services. It's a group of people, and I think what it's done is actually helped me to trust people, trust that they are part of the church because they want to be, and they are part of it because they have friendships and relationships, because they love God and they love the people within the community. So to begin with, it was very much my usual kind of mentality, which is, I don't know what to do. What should I do? Work harder, do more, keep doing more. And it's that sense of like, oh, I don't really know if I'm doing what I should be. Well, if I just do a lot, then surely some of that will stick. And then just felt exhausted and felt really anxious. And then I just stopped, spent some time with God, prayed, and just, I guess, recalibrated of what is church, what is my role, and all of that. So yeah, I'm a lot calmer now.
I think that leads into the next sort of part of what I wanted to talk to you about in terms of, you connected with quite a lot of people as a pastor. Those who aren't connected to church don't know what a church is. I think it's really important that your name is actually family, because that's what we mean by church. Church isn't just that building down the road that looks old. It's actually a community of people that are supporting each other through this. And that's very much what we as Christians believe is one of the good parts about Christianity. The good news is that you are part of a wider family, a global family that of people that believe. But part of that interaction that you have as a church leader with other people is you can kind of see the best how people handle it well, and you can also see how people are handling it badly, but also not just the personal handling it, those who are impacted the worst or impacted or the impact is negligible. So the question really is for those students who are really struggling both in terms of work but also not being able to see others physically, what kind of strategies or recommendations or things that you've learned would you recommend to them?
Sure. I think it sounds a little bit like a cliche because everyone says it, but I think it's simply that, you know, one of the questions that that we were discussing earlier was, you know, what have you been doing during this quarantine time? And the fact is that there isn't anything, like I haven't learned a new hobby. I haven't learned a new language. I'm, you know, still learning to speak English properly. I haven't got like a good routine that I'm doing every week. If I'm honest, I'm taking each week. So I'm not doing day by day, I'm doing week by week. So at the beginning of each week, I'm going, okay, there's one thing that I'd like to do this week outside of my normal work, you know, eating and that kind of stuff. And I've actually stopped using words like to-do list, because for me, I realized that to-do lists can add a lot more stress and pressure. And if I am already feeling disconnected, demotivated and tired and just mentally exhausted, I think people don't really, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't really realize when I'm mentally strained. So people are like, how are you? I'm like, yeah, great. And I'm not saying that just to lie and get on with it. I think I genuinely think I'm okay. And so for me, my body picks up before my mind does. So if I'm really stressed, so for example, I started a new job about 8 years ago. It was a really stressful job. And my friends were saying, how are you finding the job? You know, it's new, it's stressful, etc. I was like, no, it's fine. You know, I was like, yeah, no, it's going really well. Like, I'm really enjoying it. And I was really enjoying it. But because the person who was meant to train me had to go on like emergency leave, so I was left on my own, and there was no one in my office, and all of my colleagues were remote in different places. So it's really stressful. And after about 2 weeks, I realized that the entire inside of my mouth was full of ulcers. And so for a few days I was eating and I was like, oh, wait, I feel it's just spicy. Like, what's this tingly thing? Had no awareness. I was that ignorant to the state of my mental health that I was like, yeah, I think I'm just tired or something. I guess I'll just sleep a little bit more. And then it was only 2 months later, I was like, oh, I've had mouth ulcers for 3 weeks. I think I'm stressed. And it sounds ridiculous. So that's where I've gone. And so I've had days where I've just had a nap during the day, and that's okay. And I think, you know, I know being like, if you're staying in bed 24/7, then obviously that's not healthy. But a really good tip a friend gave me was have a nap if you're tired. But when you're all, you know, sit down and watch a TV show or a film. But there's a moment on the sofa where you go from, I'm really enjoying sitting down and watching a film, to, I don't want to move from here. Like, I want to stay here forever. And that's the moment you need to stand up, because you've moved from resting to escapism, and that's the two different things. So rest is, I'm enjoying the film, you know, you can be, and so it's not the length of time, it's the moment your head goes, I never want to get up. Like, this is where I want my bum imprint to forever be. On the sofa to like just engulf me forevermore. That's the moment you've got to stand up. And so, like, in terms of people struggling, I'd say recognize the symptoms and the signs. It's not weakness, it's just reaction to what's going on. And when you feel like you want to just sit, just stand, just do a little bit of a movement. I've been going for jogs, but again, I'm trying not to say that I'm doing things routinely, because the moment I say that and I don't do it, it stresses me out. So I'm not like, I'm going to go running once a week. I'm just going to go, I'll run when I feel like it. And then I go for a run. I go, I achieved a run today, which is what I wanted to do. Whereas if I go, I'm going to go running 3 times a week, then already I'm going, this week I've got to achieve these 3 things on top of waking up, showering, dressing, and thinking about pandemic and people around the world, and then working all of that. So I've really just stayed away from any kind of achievement mentality, and just gone with one-offs. Like, today I'm going to eat this. Great. Are you going to do that every week? Don't know. Don't care. Tomorrow. Yeah. So it's just like a one-off, I think, is a really good way to battle any kind of anxiety.
Yeah, I think that takes a lot of pressure away, doesn't it? It's not the expectancy for you to do something even more, because I think a lot of us are craving still the things that we've lost, not just having maybe lost family members or friends have lost family members, but actually I think all of us are still craving the freedom that we had and the things we had got used to, the lifestyles that we had. But I think we often underestimate how tired that can make us as well, and how much energy that costs as well to go through that process of actually, okay, we've lost something, and that's okay, and that's gonna feel not nice for a while. I wonder if you're coming now slowly to that point of, oh, actually I can get used to it, or suddenly to the point of, I need to get out now.
Yeah, it's true. I something that I used to love doing, which I haven't done during this lockdown, but I just remembered, was sometimes I'd scroll through like YouTube or Facebook and find those like really heart-wrenching videos of like X Factor and things. I know it's really cheesy, but you know, like you've got this, or like a hero story of like this kid was bullied all his life, and he's now 17 and he's built this charity, all that kind of stuff. And as you know, you typical like Susan Boyle type video of just singing. And I really love them because I think it's an emotional release. So I watch something like that, and sometimes I'll just stay in bed and be like, oh, this is so beautiful. They've had to fight to get this thing, and it's amazing. But I think what it does is it stops me from numbing my emotions, because I think when I numb it, then I don't recognize it. And so sometimes, rather than trying to deal with this corona emotion, watch something that's emotive. So like, I like watching sad films, and my friends think it's really depressing, but for me it's a way of connecting with a human emotion. And so I like a story that I can feel like, that just hit me in the gut. And so watching those things, I think sometimes is a good way to release it without going, Corona's making me feel like this, because Corona's continuing for the next couple of hours. Whereas if it's actually a film, you watch it, you cry or you laugh or you whatever, and then you just move on from it. So I mean, I don't know if that's helpful advice. If you're a counsellor, I may be giving terrible advice, but I enjoy
please comment. Please comment if you think that's completely rubbish.
I know all the GPs are like, that's not what. No, bad. I
think you're actually you're hitting it in the right way, Charlie. Just because there's got to be a release and both a reflection and recognition of how you're feeling, even if you don't quite realize it. So I have come to recognize that I do something similar. I can just crack on with just doing stuff, ignoring how I actually feel, or what the stuff I'm doing is actually doing to me. And so stress is one of those things that just can hide under the surface, and it's got to be released at some point. It's either going to explode at someone else, or it's going to, you find some way of dealing with that. And some people find it in a day-to-day routine. I've heard some people with it's really interesting, because you're talking about your way of processing this has been to almost completely remove a routine and productivity. And I've seen other people give that advice of you're trying to be productive in a framework that it no longer exists. Our whole society's idea of productivity has just gone down the pan for the foreseeable future. And so trying to deal with that may well be that you lose your routine, and a single goal is how you deal with that. For others, I think trying to find a schedule for the day is I've heard that recommended. And so it's really interesting finding how our different personalities, our different experiences all come into play.
Yeah.
To then what you find is a release for your stress, someone else won't. And so while we can talk about it and bounce ideas around, I think it's really important for anyone who's listening to explore different things. If one thing doesn't work for you, well, try a walk. If that doesn't work for you, try putting your phone away. Try different things until you suddenly realize that actually this is how my brain sorts through and processes what's going on around me. So I don't think that you've said anything too heretical.
Well, we might get in touch afterwards and then say that was horrendous. Why?
Never be invited back to Friends International again.
Oh yeah, we just stay silent.
Yeah.
Never gonna hear back from us ever again. I was wondering, as a pastor, you're obviously a man of faith. You have a faith as a Christian. You mentioned that already. What does that mean to you in the times that we're all facing at the moment, where death is around us in a new way that we haven't probably seen in our lifetime, certainly? How has faith helped you to cope with things?
Yeah, so for me, in this season where so much has changed, one thing that hasn't changed the things that haven't changed are the things related to my faith. So everything to do with like work, food, routines of life, exercise, shopping, friendships even, and relating to people, connecting with people, they've all changed. But what hasn't changed for me, and in terms of my faith, is that I am loved by God. And that is, in the midst of, and today I was thinking about it, is that we need people. And I've also heard some kind of religious people or Christians who would say, we don't need people, we just need God, and that's it, which I don't agree with. But one thing that it's shown me is that in this season, I can know that I am loved and that I am seen, that I am heard. And for me, I think that's the biggest thing, because death comes to us all. That's the reality. I think we can live with a ignorance about death. But as we get older, we're going to be experiencing death more often, because people in their 80s, their friends are passing away and all of those things. And so as we get older, those things are more present. And all this has done is remind me that my life here on this earth is not limitless. It's not without an end. And so there's a point where my life will come to an end. But throughout it all, I've just been reminded that actually I am loved by God, and there is a God who is so gracious and so full of goodness that in the midst of these seasons of hardship, that I can look to Jesus to bring me hope and to remind me that I'm loved in the season. And so for me, faith has been it's been a bedrock, and in that sense, not much has changed. And I think my whole life was changed when I became a Christian, and so my career changed, my outlook on life, my finances, my career aspirations, everything changed. And so for me, there isn't that much that's shaken me. And I think I realized when I came to God that everything that I kind of place security on in my life were going to come to an end. Like money, however much I earn, I will still die. However healthy and six-pack I may build up, which I haven't, the way I eat just won't happen, will go away. I'll still die. But one thing that remains is God's love. And I think when I know that I think there's no fear of death, there's no fear of an end, because there's something that is going to be continuous and eternal, and that's God's love. And so as I focus on something that lasts beyond this lifetime, it's given me a hope that there is one thing that will stay consistent from this side of eternity to the other side of eternity. And that consistency has kept me just really grounded and just really grateful. To be honest, there's been moments of difficulty in this season, but I've just been so full of gratitude. I've spoken to friends who are in countries where they literally cannot eat, and there's more people dying of starvation than of coronavirus. And my fridge is full I am able to talk to my friends like this online. I have an incredibly comfortable bed. I have housemates that I get on with. I have a roof over my head. It's sunny. I've got a deck chair that I can sit in my garden. And so all of those things, I believe it's my faith in God that He's helping me to see all the good in the world and all the things that I'm blessed with rather than things I'm lacking. So yeah, that's a little bit of how my faith affects me in this season.
What would you say to students who are kind of curious about faith, and how would they go about, what would you do next?
Sure. Just to demystify it, you know, we can call it faith, we can call it church Christianity, all of those things, but ultimately it's about a relationship, a friendship with someone called Jesus. And just as if I wanted to get to know you, Lily, I would probably start with saying hi, acknowledging that you exist.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, when are you free? Should we hang out? And so we, you know, it wouldn't go from hi, acknowledging your presence, your existence, to, hey, why don't our families all go on a big group holiday together? So it starts out just simply saying, hey, and that's where I would start. Is if you want to know someone, and for me, God isn't a thing, it's a person. So just as I would add you as a friend on Facebook, begin with that process. You know, in the past there was a thing called Poke. I don't know if that still exists in Facebook, where you could like,
I think there's still something like that, but I always feel slightly uncomfortable when people do that now. It's like, really?
Please don't do that to me.
Yeah. Don't poke me.
I don't know if poke Jesus is the right phrase, but like in a Facebook sense, just say hi. And there's an amazing promise in the Bible. It says that if you seek, you will find. If you ask, I will answer. And if you knock, the door will open. And so there's a simplicity of anyone who calls out to Jesus, He will respond. And so you don't need me, you don't need a pastor, you don't actually even need to enter into a church building. You don't need to do any of those things. So I would start with that as a first thing, which is just simply say in your heart, Jesus, okay, this is a bit weird. And it's okay to acknowledge it's a bit weird because it's the first time you're talking to someone that you haven't physically met. Say, Jesus, I'd love to get to know you. Hello? And just leave it there. And then the next day, just go, sorry, how are you doing? I want to know more about who you are. So can you show yourself to me? I'd love to know. And if you're coming from a place of genuine seeking, as opposed to, go on then, show me who you are so I can figure it out. And I can tell you're a fraud. And but if there's a genuine seeking of, I want to just know you, He answers. And the second thing is the Bible. It is one of the most well-read, the #1 sold book of all times. And so get the Bible, and what I would say, start with Book of John, which is one of the 4 Gospels, and it just charts the life of this person called Jesus and why we believe in Him, why we love Him, not just respect, honor, afraid of, or you know, serve, but why we love Him and why He is our best friend, comforter, savior, king. All of these things encompass into this incredible man called Jesus. And so pray, which is simply hello, acknowledge, and then read a Bible. And you can go online. If you don't have access to a physical one, you can just Google the Book of John Bible, and there's so many websites where you can just read through that. And I'm sure if you've got any questions as you're reading it, that Phil and Lily would be happy to kind of connect with you. I know you guys do like book clubs and all sorts of amazing discussions.
All sorts of things.
Yeah.
So get in touch. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, Bible.com is a good way to get into. It's got all the different languages as well, so you can end up with a decent amount of access to the Bible. Charlie, I just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Welcome.
We've hit the 45-minute mark, so it's probably about time to wrap things up. But it's been a real pleasure to see you through a screen.
Hopefully in real life soon.
Absolutely. And just want to say thank you to those who have dropped by, and please do visit our website. We've got lots of things happening, ways that we want to connect with people online through streaming, through Zoom, through cooking. We want to help you get through this lockdown well, but also we want to help you connect with people so that when this lockdown ends, you know people in Guildford. And if you've returned to your home country, we still want to stay in touch. And that's one thing that we at Friends International want to stay through past lockdown, is being able to do more online. And that's what we're doing. So all this is testing out the future of Friends International in Guildford, where we can connect better through technology. So if you're watching this later, feel free to comment, add your comments below wherever you're watching it. Let us know if there's specific topics that you'd like us to engage with. And if you are not a Christian but are interested, get in touch. As Charlie has said, if you aren't a Christian and not fussed, well, lots of our events have nothing to do with faith in that regard, not as blatantly either. But we just want to know you and help you get connected and make friends. It's in the name. So on that note, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.